So, welcome along to another episode of Commentator's Corner. It's episode 28, and I've got someone who's not only a very credible sim racer, but also a very, very talented graphic artist. Welcome along to the show, Cammie Sturch. Cammie, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Alex. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, Cammie, what I'd like for all our guests to do is just to give yourself a bit of a brief introduction to the folks that are watching and are listening.
Well, as you say, yep, my name is Cammie Sturch. I'm a graphic designer, animator, former pro sim racer with Team Fordzilla, which is the motor company Ford's official esport team. That was from 2020 to 2022. And since then, I've been focusing on my self-employment, growing my business Go for the Gap, which specializes in graphic design, motion graphics, logos, branding, all in the motorsport sphere, as well as sim racing esports, and working with drivers from club level up to GT level at the moment, doing sponsorship decks, logos, stuff for social media, and helping them connect with potential sponsors, as well as fans. So things like autograph cards and business cards as well, anything like that. I've become the person to go to in the paddock.
The go-to lady, then, in other words.
The go for the gap person. Yeah, I'm trying to work in a pun there, but it's not really working.
Well, the go for the gap lady. There you go.
Yes.
There we go. We got there. So, Cammie, we've known each other for quite a few years now. First time that we met, shout out to our good mutual friend Charlie Martin at the brand finale at W Series in, I think it wasn't it 2019? I think it was.
It was the W Series finale 2019, where I also met Jess Shanahan, Sarah Moore, Alice Powell. It was a great weekend where I felt quite bewildered because that was the first time I'd, after a redundancy at a video game studio I worked at, I just set out to, I'm just going to go there on my own and force myself to talk to people, strange people I don't know. And it's now become one of those points in my life that I can look back at and go, that was a pivotal moment. And there's no small part thanks to Richard Morris as well of Racing Pride. Sort of wouldn't be here in this situation working with so many wonderful people if it wasn't for his support and Racing Pride.
Yeah, exactly, because you were recently on a trip to the Alpine F1 team factory at Enstone, along with good friend Daniel Hyde from Cadan Computers. Give that man a shout out. He does do quite a bit with not just computers, but also broadcasts, sim racing as well. I've had the pleasure of working with him. Well, we both have through the recent Moser Racing Endurance Championship powered by Sim Racing GP. Cammie, how did you first of all get bitten by the motorsport bug, and who was the initial catalyst for that?
Well, the sort of little story I always like to tell is that when my mother was pregnant with me, my dad dragged her to the 1986 European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch. So my mother was pregnant with me, sitting on a grassy bank, or probably standing, as Nigel Mansell pelted round in the would have been the FW08, I believe, winning, of course, and the 1.6 turbo engines that were probably lessened my mother's ability to hear anything, because back before health and safety and earmuffs. But yeah, I could probably hear it from sort of inside the womb, as it were. So I was probably infected at that point, because my earliest memories of watching the 92 Formula One season, sort of, keep rewinding it, watch it again, and wear out the tape, the amount of times I listened to Murray Walker screaming Mansell's praises in Red 5.
Yeah, those were back in the days when 1.6 turbocharged engines were not hybrids, folks. They had up to 1,500 horsepower in qualifying trim, and that was scary.
And you could hear them coming miles away, not like the new ones where the F3 cars seem to be louder.
Yeah, I think the F2 cars as well, at some points. It's just quite funny how Formula One technology has gone even more quieter over the years, and everything else is just like blam in your face. Right, cover your eardrums. They're going to start hurting in a minute.
That's why I love the British touring cars.
You hear the
It's so visceral, the pops and bangs. Yeah,
yeah.
get my noise fixed there.
Now, also one of the other things, Cammie and I have worked together on commentary for the Motor Racing Endurance Championship, but also you've done some other commentary as well. We'd been discussing about that quite a long time, hadn't we? That you were sort of thinking, yeah, I know about sim racing, but I want to get involved with commentary. When you took your first steps with Owned Racing to do that, and then it sort of like moved you into getting opportunities with Sim Racing GP and the Motor Racing Endurance Championship. What were your first thoughts when you went, okay, I'm not behind the wheel, but I can definitely talk about racing in a good way? What was your first thoughts when you did your first broadcast?
I was thinking, holy heck, people are paying me to do this now. But it was very, it was very much. I never gelled very well with Assetto Corsa Competizioni.
Hmm.
So, unlike other simulators, I struggled with the physics and the way the cars behaved and the weight shifting around of ACC. So I never felt quite at home with it. But those who can't talk about it, of course. And people have told me I just, I can. You have to keep talking, and you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be passionate about what you're talking about. So it seemed a natural fit that I'd be able to talk about what's going on in the sim racing events and maybe highlight things that the layperson wouldn't know, and people who are just watching in support of family or friends who don't know the nuances of sim racing quite like we do, or even real racing. I could try and educate them a little bit, try and bring new people into it, and I think it's a commentator's job to be excited and to bring people and make them as excited as you are, because I've heard, and it's obviously amateurs who commentating because they have no budget and they have nobody else left to do the commentary,
Yeah.
and I'll hear them and they won't know the drivers' names, they won't know the corner names, they're struggling what to say, they don't know who did the fastest lap, they don't know the best line into a corner, and it shows, and it can make for very dry viewing where they might be better suited to commentating on something slower paced like snooker, because it
Hmm.
feels like racing is so fast paced, you have to be ready to interrupt yourself and to be interrupted at any time. You can't finish a tangent. If something happens on track, you have to stop what you're saying right away and quickly, sorry, I got to stop you, Ted, like they do on F1. And there's some breaking news, or
Hmm.
sorry, there's a radio transmission, let's listen to that. So I mean, I hope I've been doing a good job. I've commentated alongside yourself, of course, and Lewis McGlade and Chris McCarthy and Chaz Draycott, and I've, nobody's told me I suck at it yet. So
No, I mean the times when we've worked together on the Motor Racing Endurance Championship, it's been an absolute blast because the thing is, when you have a play-by-play commentator, which is normally the role that I frequent, and then you have someone like Cammie who can lead a broadcast, can also do color commentary, whereby there's a lot more insight, and obviously your sim racing experience with Team Fordzilla. You did a lot of iRacing when you were with them, and some
yes,
occasional spelunks onto R Factor 2, but we won't talk about the E Team British ET Challenge because we talked about that to the death between ourselves anyway. But to understand the nuances of setups and understanding about car control as a color commentator is actually quite a useful tool, isn't it, to explain things to the audience in layman's terms.
yeah, I think most people will know that if the car's sliding, okay, correct it. But it's more, you can feel that happening under you in a real car. You can't feel it in a sim racing sort of car, because unless you've got hydraulics or something on your seat, and even then you can't feel the car like you can in real life. So you're relying on sight, and it's just about being able to explain that and the nuances of tire pressures and or
Mm.
different tire types and how aggressively people are driving, and maybe whether they're brake dragging on the warm up lap to warm up the tires. And there's sim racing is so realistic now that if you heat up your tires too quickly or too aggressively, you can even cause them to sort of marble up and overheat the outer edge and sort of become useless essentially. And it's incredible how much detail iRacing and Assetto Corsa have really gone into. So you know, I feel that sometimes when I'm commentating, I might repeat myself, but then listening to real commentators, I think you do end up repeating yourself because you don't know when you have a newcomer listening who wouldn't have heard something you'd said a few races ago, and the same situation might unfold over and over again in just with different drivers or in slightly different ways. So you'll have to talk about the fact that one driver might be looking after their tires a little more. You might have to talk about that there could be sort of team tactics coming into play, or the way drivers, are they rounding out the corners, or are they sort of going deep into the corner, hitting the brakes and taking it more sharply, because different drivers have different styles, and it can all change the outcome of the race, as well as the weather, of course, in the simulations. That plays a huge part.
When it let's just take a brief look back at the Team Fordzilla career. You know, there was a lot of times when you were running on iRacing. What was your preferred series? Was it single seaters, tin tops, GT3s? What was your preferred racing category?
I think it was always the single seaters, not necessarily Formula One. It would be the first series I fell in love with was the Formula Renault 2 litres. Maybe I just enjoyed it because I did very well at it, but I had some very close battles as well. Formula 3, a lot of fun, and recently I've been enjoying the Super Formula cars that have come in to iRacing. With the tin tops and GT3 cars and GTE cars, I did a series with Sim Racers World GTE. I can do them. I enjoy them. I think I struggle a bit more with. I'm more used to lightning reflexes, braking as hard as I can at the last minute, whereas within GT cars you have to be much more measured, much more smooth, and I struggle with that because the longer I take to do something, it's like there's longer for me to think about it and then longer for me to dilly-dally and make a mistake, whereas if I just do it at the last minute, it's more instinctual.
Mm. Obviously, with Go for the Gap, which is a brand that I've a lot of people in the not just the sim racing space, but obviously a little bit further than that, has really sort of blossomed over the last couple of years or so. Um, when did you sort of found that you had that artistic joie de vivre, so to speak, where you could actually visualize a concept and then take it from that little idea to something tangible?
I don't even think about it in such sort of in a professional manner like that. It does sound very professional and cool to talk about taking a kernel of an idea and developing it, but essentially, I'm not grown up enough for that. So it was me drawing race cars. Me get paid to draw race cars,
End of
and it's
story.
essentially grown from that. Yeah, I might talk about, I'll translate it into business speak and talk about, I specialize in communication products, visual communication to reach your target audience. No, me drawing race cars. And fortunately, I'm good at it. I've been drawing race cars since I was very young, usually trying to recapture moments that I had experienced on racing games as if they'd happened in real life. And yeah, luckily, I get this imposter syndrome and I think, what I do is okay. But thankfully, other people are much more positive and they go, "Oh, it's wonderful, it's amazing." And
Yeah.
at Alpine, people are saying, "I love your work, Cammie, it's brilliant." And I'm going, "Right, yeah, it's okay." Yeah, I don't know how
I,
to do with compliments. I just try and say thank you, and
mhm.
it's okay.
I think at some point we've all suffered with that imposter syndrome, like saying, "Am I really actually good at what I do?" We're sort of self-doubting what we are capable of. I've had that as a commentator, where you've had comments either directed at you via DMs or to your face, and you're like, it puts that little modicum of doubt into your mind. You're like, I don't know really how to take this, or I don't know how to take this on board and try and make the best out of what could look like a bad situation. But I'm not the one. I'm not the one instigating it. I actually, truth be told, and I haven't said this story much. I haven't really said it at all until now. That I was doing commentary for a particular karting championship in Europe, but not one of the main ones that I'm known for. And I got the most vile message sent to me by someone who was not a friend of mine on Facebook, managed to find me on Facebook, pinged me a message which went into the not like the general chat that you get on Facebook, but the normally like the ones of people that you don't know,
Yeah.
and was telling me how to do my job. And I was just like thinking, right, that's straight away annoyed me. Second
Mm.
of all, I'm going to show you exactly why I'm good at my job. And then I actually sent the message to the championship organizer and I said, "Can you have a word with this person?" And he went and talked to him, and then I got the most sincerest 5-minute apology in another language, which I do speak, of course. And I said, "Well, that just shows you these people, if they like what I do, they're paying my bills. They're paying my bills. At the end of the day, what they say count. And I don't appreciate a backhanded comment like you put on there." And I said, "Do you want me to read it to you?" And they went, "No, we know what we wrote." And I said, "Well, thank you very much for actually deciding to apologise."
That was good of them. Keyboard warriors don't generally deal well with consequences because the internet seems a very consequence-free zone, isn't it? Where you can just tap out your thoughts.
Yeah,
You don't. I bet they didn't have a profile picture even. So
they did
I mean,
actually, and I knew
oh,
exactly.
wait,
I knew
oh,
exactly the driver's parent, the driver of this family. I knew very very well, and he always used to say, "Oh, you're the best commentator." Da 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 da. And it was really really nice because it humbled me. But then the parents, just like
hmm,
completely different tangent. I was just like, just goes to show that okay, blood is thicker than water, but then some people are one side of the other. The other, there's two sides to every coin, isn't there, Cammie? Well, there's one where it's like all singing and dancing, sunshine and rainbows. The other side's like a dark pit in hell, and you just don't know how to react to the other one until you
no,
have to until you have to deal with the situation, and then it sort of goes flip side because then the person that's said that has realised the error of their ways quite significantly. So
yeah. Thankfully, I've never had anyone contact me and say anything like that. I've had comments of how my work could be better or different styles I could or should work in, but
mm,
nothing. I try and change up my styles quite a lot. If you go through my work, as I a lot of artists will just work in one style and they become very known for that one style. But because I've come from a sort of a marketing, animation, and a video game background, I'm very used to having to adapt
mm,
to a company's or a studio's style that they've already established. So I'm very used to trying different things in different styles. So on my Etsy store, yeah, you'll see a bunch of styles. Although it is generally a vector comic style that is probably a bit more prominent across my work.
yeah, it's right. I'm now going to go onto social media for funny posts. And don't worry, there is one thing that we've talked about behind the scenes, but I'm not going to. It's not to do that. Where you've replied to a to no context Brits who said, "Parents beware, some sick are giving these to kids," and that was the Parma violets. Someone then goes, "Parma violets are delicious," and then you've then posted the following, which was the picture. "Most people rejected his message. Shut up. They hated Jesus because they told them the truth."
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's a
uh,
classic meme.
what prompted that response? I mean, it's absolutely classic where you can just find a picture that sums up the complete situation.
Um, I grew up thinking in Simpsons quotes, but now it's kind of in memes as well, and it's just a lazy response really to reply with a meme. Somebody else has already done the work, and I'm just pinching. I'm not a funny person, but I'm borrowing somebody else's humor because they made the meme, and I think that came from I think that picture originally came from like a school textbook or something.
Yeah, I
Not
think.
that I didn't upload it, but
Uh,
yeah, I mean I don't even like Parma violets. I was just staring the part.
no, it was just like the way you just responded with that was just priceless. Where no words, no text was required apart from a picture with verbiage in it, which was
Yeah.
I thought absolutely brilliant. I mean, it just goes to show that everyone, folks, has a sense of humour. Whether you may be able to interpret it in the right way or the wrong way, that's your bag. But it's just like the way it just happened. I thought that's just perfect because you get people putting either pictures or gifs or memes or whatever.
Mm.
It's like the one where someone says thank you to me, and I just go use the Steve Carell with a drink in his hand, going "You're welcome" sort of point, which is just a regular bad habit of mine, which I am stopping doing, to be honest with you.
I mean, when I try on Twitter, when I try and be funny or I try and post something interesting, I'll get a handful of likes. And then I just made a very dull post going, "Oh, Alpine have put the N the wrong way up on their factory." And then suddenly 2,000 likes. I was like, oh God, I can't deal with this much attention because that means it's the algorithm working and I'm attracting people who don't know me. And a couple people even got snarky at me.
Did they?
Yeah, one person said, man, you need a girlfriend.
Right,
And I think I just, I was like,
you know,
oh, you woke up and chose violence. And somebody else said, what you on about? It's fine. And I had to sort of point out, no, look, it's a simple spot the difference game that kids can do. Look at the N. And there he went, oh yeah, sorry.
yeah, we had the biggest story of F1. I'm gonna show one of the actual. I'm gonna show. I've actually screenshotted the tweet from Cammie, and now I'm gonna read the comments. The biggest F1 story of 2023. Someone's gone, I blame Piastri. Someone else has put, the echo of Otmar's reign still dance across my ears. The mountains of his past still break the winds of the coming unknown.
I haven't seen these comments.
No. Oh my God. Yeah, Lights Out Lena goes, oh my God, on the right side of the building. It's even correct. Welp.
Yes, there wasn't even consistency.
I know. And then, but these are all quotations of your tweet. And then,
I see. Okay.
And then Ben Hocking F1 has gone, stop the search. This is the most Alpine thing of all time.
I mean, I have to admit, when I went to Enstone, I did check, but somebody did correct me. They did say, because I said it was the Enstone building, and somebody said, actually, I think it's their engine base in France. Is it Viry?
Viry-Châtillon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I got to Enstone, I was able to confirm, yeah, it's all correct here. But it's an easy mistake to make because you think the pointy end would be at the top, like an Alpine mountain.
Yes,
but it's not. It's at the bottom, and it's a really easy. I wasn't picking on them. It's a really easy mistake to make, but hopefully they can laugh at it. Laugh. It wasn't helped. I only found it because I was doing an illustration for Abby Pulling, and it was going to be of her car and the building. So obviously, I looked up a reference, and my graphic design eye just saw it. So
that's the thing. It's
a mistake I'd make. It just looked like a mistake I would make. That was all.
Well, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it is more the case of that you looked at it and saw it and noticed it, and that is why Cammie is so damn good at what she does as a graphic designer, folks. 100%. Considering who you've worked with, like Will Dendy, amongst others.
The wonderful Will Dendy.
Top bloke who's also rapid behind the wheel of a sim and also a GT car. Well done, that man.
Lovely bloke. Yeah, if you want to come sim racing with us in Milton Keynes, just get in contact with us and come along to Simply Racing Milton Keynes. Top fella, and you know what? I've never asked for his autograph. Absolutely should.
Yeah, posterity, Get him to sign one of the autograph cards that you probably made for him.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay, next up, favourite racing drivers. Who are yours?
Of all time?
All time, go for it. You got carte blanche, Cammie.
It's so hard to choose because obviously I grew up adoring Nigel Mansell, and that was just solidified when he signed a copy of. My dad bought Mansell's autobiography, and then Nigel Mansell signed it for me, which is really lovely. And then my dad bumped into him in the airport. I was like, man, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I haven't. Can I just say Will Dendy?
Hey, fill your boots.
But,
it's fine. It's fine. This is the whole point. This is why this show exists, folks. It means that you get to understand the people behind the scenes, from graphic design artists, from commentators, from hosts, from people within infrastructure, within motorsport. This is the whole point of this show. This is not done for analytics. This is for you people out there to understand my guests more than anything.
I'm going to avoid top level drivers because I think they're very popular choices, and it's overdone. Of course, I adore Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, and of course. But drivers who've equally impressed me have been drivers like Sarah Moore and Alice Powell in W Series. They've been, is it Lucas Blakely, who's been doing GB4?
Yes.
It's been James Baldwin, who's gone from sim racing to world's fastest gamer in a McLaren. That's been something breathtaking. So they are drivers that I would go, oh yeah, they are my favourite. A driver I've worked with recently, Nelson King, who's in the Mini Challenge. He was in his rookie season, and he was fighting for a podium spot in the championship standings. He's a phenomenal driver, and he was at the last 3 laps of the last round of the season to solidify that position in championship standings. His tyre delaminated.
Oh no!
Which is just it's one of those things he will certainly look back on and go, yeah, but it made me who I am today. Like Mansell in '86 when his tyre went. It's one of those things you look back on and go, oh yeah, that'll be a character-defining moment. And no doubt in a few years we'll see him in the Laser Tools racing team in the British Touring Car Championship. I've also got to race against Sarah Moore during lockdown, as well as Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc came in the session. Then Jamie Caroline smashed into him, which caused Leclerc's steering wheel to spin and smack him on the wrist. At which point Charles Leclerc went, "No, I'm out."
Hopefully
he quickly left the session.
Hopefully he wasn't wearing his Charles Banana suit at the time.
No, this was the famous bit where he was streaming, and I think it was around that time where he had the text and go, "My girlfriend, she is outside." And the only reason she got in contact with him is because she donated to his Twitch stream. Because he'd been ignoring his phone. But, yeah, and Will Dendy is really quick, and I've learned a lot from him with sim racing and how I take corners. And, there's drivers that I admire for their driving, and there's drivers I admire for what they do with their fame, like Sebastian Vettel very much with what he's done with sustainable fuels and sort of his push along with Lewis Hamilton for equality in countries where women can't get a driving and go racing and such. I think that's been it's been brilliant, and Formula One is a sadder place without Sebastian.
Yeah, even though he still looks like he could be ready to jump back in a Formula One car at any point. I mean, the bloke had an interview.
Yeah,
the guy had an interview. I think it was. What was it? Vettel had an interview. I think it was Martin Brundle, and and
that's it.
he went, "You think he might ever come back?" And said with that cheeky Bjorn Borg look, if anyone might remember, he did look like the Formula One German equivalent of Bjorn Borg in Formula One. With the old little wrap around his forehead, just keeping his fringe out of his eyes, and the scruffy beard.
If we see him in hypercars, that'd be brilliant. Hypercar is a series I'm looking forward to seeing grow with new manufacturers coming in. So, yes. And if you had a team with what was it? It's potentially is it Sebastian Vettel? Oh, I can't think of who's joining him. 2 more F1 drivers, and I can't remember their names. I feel like one was not Takuma Sato, but maybe Kobayashi.
Kobayashi's at Toyota, and he's
Toyota,
the team.
Yes,
and he's
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's at the team. He's the team manager.
The name pops into my head. Polish driver, F1,
Robert
Kubica. Kubica. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, considering that Aston Martin is going to be bringing the Valkyrie into WEC and also IMSA in 2025.
Will Lance Stroll be driving it?
Depends on Daddy's purse strings. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? No. But I think the thing is that is going to be the first car out of pretty much everyone that has made on their first ever year of competition that they're going to do the full season in WEC and in IMSA, and I think it's Spirit of Race that are going to be doing the. It's going to be a works team anyway, so Spirit of Race will run the car over in IMSA. The funny thing was, when I was at the Sim Racing Expo, Fanatec decided, let's just one up everybody, and they brought along a £3 million road going Aston Martin Valkyrie on Thursday night. I was there watching it because I'd arrived earlier on that morning, checked into the hotel, and went, oh, I wonder what car Fanatec are going to bring this year. So Azatec, as always, bring their LMP3, which they fire up, and did multiple times, and nearly had the naughty police on their doorstep. It was a £3 million Aston Martin Valkyrie producing 1,160 brake horsepower from its 6.5 litre V12, which also has an additional, I think, as part of that 1,160 brake horsepower is a KERS system, which produces 160 bhp. So the main engine produces about 1,000 horsepower stock. But like everyone just went, oh my god, it's a Valkyrie. It was like everyone that had a camera was there. Yes, I was there as well, but I actually had my phone in my pocket. I was just like this. I went, okay, it's a Valkyrie. So what? It's £2.5 million, £3 million in front of us. I'm just going to watch it, and everyone else is like phones out, cameras with gimbals.
Living in the moment.
That's how it
doesn't matter how much Fanatec spend, though. We'll never pronounce their name as they want us to pronounce it.
It's all down to Thomas Yakomeyer.
We'll never say Fanatic.
No, because they'll think you're a bit of a nut job if you say it that way.
I've heard the commentators at Brands Hatch go, we've just been told we're meant to be pronouncing it Fanatic.
Yeah.
After like a couple of hours of saying Fanatec, and then they were debating it over the sort of speaker system. I'm like, just call it Fanatec. We all say that.
Yeah. But it was just so funny. I was just like, they had about 3 different layers of wood just at the end of the trailer, just to make sure that the front carbon splitter didn't get yeeted onto the floor, and that would have been a big repair bill. Yeah. That was one of the most entertaining things of the weekend, even though I hadn't had any sleep apart from the sleep on the plane from Stansted to Dortmund. I have these problems that when it gets up to like a weekend, and when you've got to be up early for a plane the following morning, I'm one of these people that tries to go to sleep early. But what happens? The cogs in the brain keep on ticking, and you're like, I just want to go to sleep.
Before you know it, you're looking, you're like, well, my alarm's going off in an hour. Now there's no point.
Or it's like 15 minutes, yeah.
Maybe I could just leave earlier and drive to the airport more slowly.
But then you still
then you get that nice liminal space of an empty motorway. Nothing like driving to an airport at 4 a.m. It's a special feeling.
Apart from the fact if you've got multiple 18-wheelers, 18-wheelers trying to overtake each other at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're doing 70, and you're like, oh, why? I just want to get to the airport. Cammie, next question is, have you ever been starstruck meeting a race driver or a personality within motorsport?
It might sound a bit strange, but no. I've met, at Autosport International, I got Lando Norris's autograph on my Fanatec steering wheel. I've been very close to David Coulthard as he walks past at W Series. I've met and spoken to Billy Munger, but I never get this starstruck. To me, they're people, they're drivers, and I tried to approach them with the utmost respect. Excuse me, Mr. Munger, not all right, Billy, because he's not my friend, so I wouldn't say that. But what annoyed me at W Series especially was the amount of people just shoving a phone in David Coulthard's face, and how he kept his cool whilst 5 people were almost tripping over him as he was trying to walk somewhere, just shoving a phone in his face. Not even, excuse me, Mr. Coulthard, would it be all right to have a photo of you? No, just. I can see why celebrities get really annoyed with it. And I don't understand the inherent value of a selfie with a celebrity. I would prefer an autograph because it's more of a even if I didn't want it anymore and I gave it to somebody else, it could mean a lot to them. Whereas a selfie means everything to the person who took it, nothing to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, would I be I might be a little bit starstruck if I met Nigel Mansell, of course.
Yeah.
But there's also the case that there's a fine line of being starstruck and, sorry, I don't want to get in your way. You're busy, you're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nobody, so you must get this all the time. So yeah, I always tried not to be one of those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the only person that's ever made me starstruck is Tom Christensen. That's the only
Oh, really?
person. Well, I mean, I've interviewed Tom, I think 2 or 3 times now, and he's a very, very nice guy, and he's the only person that I have ever seen pull off a very, very, traditional, like, single-breasted suit with tie and shirt, and then wear the brightest, whitest Adidas trainers I've ever seen to completely clash. So it's like
Is
dark.
this part of the Adidas sponsorship
No, no,
to give them a shout out?
no, 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 no. This I actually bought with my own money, so there we go.
Hang on, Adidas or Adidas?
Adidas.
Adidas, yeah.
um, but I think there's also one topic I think we do need to touch on, and that's representation in motorsport. Where you did mention a very good friend of the pair of us, Richard Morris, and the team at Racing Pride. It is really good to see that people within the LGBTQIA plus community, including yourself, including Charlie, Richard, who's very, very open about who he is, Sarah, who we all know, who we have to give a shout out because she won in Chennai quite recently at the Mumbai International Circuit with the Bangalore Speedsters. So, Sarah, well done. Congrats. Representate.
And she was, of course, the first LGBT driver to stand on a Formula One weekend podium.
Yes, yes.
She holds that distinction.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for reminding me of that. But representation in motorsport is becoming more of a prominent talking point. And it's good to see that people who are being who they know who they are. And I think that's quite important, yourself included, Charlie included, and everybody else. There's still a long way to go with regards to that kind of representation, along with women in motorsport and obviously gender equality. There's still a lot that needs to be done, doesn't there?
Yeah, I try not to. It's hard. It's a fine line because when you bang the drum too hard, it can annoy people. And the last thing I want to do is annoy people, essentially. And you can't exactly say, right, 50% of your workforce in this team needs to be LGBTQIA or minorities. Right, get rid of those people and just hire minorities and LGBTQ people. You can't do that. You know, it needs to be a slow boil, a slow evolution, something to just bear in mind. I don't know if it should be a like a set in stone target, because ultimately the best people will get the job. I don't know how you interview people without ever making any biased decisions, like without seeing a face or a name or knowing anything about their background or religion or anything like that. But I've never, I've been to Brands Hatch and Silverstone and Snetterton and Spa-Francorchamps and worked with teams and drivers, spoken to fans, been in the paddocks. I've never had anyone. Maybe I've been lucky. I've never had anyone make a big deal out of the way, if nobody's ever misgendered me or tried to be nasty to me or gone out of their way to just, be an arse about it. Or because I know Richard had a very hard time about it with his homosexuality and fellow drivers scrawling nasty stuff on his car. But there's probably a lot of that also comes down to sometimes kids are little SOBs as well at times.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I could imagine people. It must happen, of course. It must happen. But compared to 20 years ago, if a 15, 16-year-old boy is karting and everybody knows or suspects he's gay, there's a lot less chance of them being dicks about it than 20 years ago. where it was common parlance in school. If somebody did something, oh, you're gay, that's gay. It was just really common. It was probably the same when you went to school. It was just a
Yeah.
word that, yeah. And so, yeah, I remember Matt Bishop talking about it, of course, at Aston Martin when we had a factory tour and a presentation there. I think it was Matt. He's very much, you don't get people, you want to get people on side with you, and you don't get them on side by lecturing them and telling them off. And this is how you do things. You need to do it like we do it, and you need to think the way we do. You do it by gentle persuasion. So when Formula One goes to countries like Bahrain, you won't get those countries on side by lecturing them. But what you will get them on side with is, LGBTQ people in that country will see that the world is opening up, and Bahrain is, if it wants Formula One, it has to, Formula One's not going to break it, and the drivers and teams aren't going to break their principles of that we hold in sort of Western society, that everybody is and should be equal. So Matt Bishop very proudly wore his he had a rainbow shirt on. He wasn't going to change that for anybody just because he was in Bahrain. If Formula One wants us, they're going to have to accommodate us, essentially. If you want us, you have all of us. You don't pick and choose the bits of Formula One you want. If you want to be part of this international sport, you need to get on our page, because ultimately money talks as well. And that's the way I think it should be. And of course, I'm saying "of course" a lot. It's one of my go-to words.
Don't worry about it.
Matt Bishop had a couple of people reach out to him and saying they were, I think it was a couple of gay guys not a couple of gay people in Bahrain saying, like, it was so great seeing you wear that shirt in Bahrain. Suddenly I don't feel alone. And the fact that Matt was there and sort of didn't get lynched, even though he had a bomb threat texted to him, but I think it was just somebody being a bit of a keyboard warrior, because he said, I looked under my car and nothing was there, so not that I could have done much about it, but yeah, it's gentle persuasion, not banging people over the head with things. When people use the wrong pronouns with me, I try not to get angry. Well, I don't get angry. Depending on how I look with my shorter hair, especially, or my voice over the phone. Somebody might say he, and I might just gently say, I would prefer she. If they're going to keep saying he, yeah, that could be annoying. Oh, you're just doing it to get a rise out of me, or suddenly you're going to be very, oh, I must follow biology.
Yeah.
Oh, but you've dyed your hair, but that's okay. But me, yeah. But I don't want to, maybe I just don't want to rock the apple cart, I don't want to make people angry. I just want to do what I love and meet other people who enjoy what I love. And if they enjoy my art, then even better. And just, it's easy in a world where you can be anything. Be kind.
That's the perfect way to round off that particular part of the conversation. And thank you for being so open.
I was rambling again, so
don't worry. The thing is, there's no cap on these interview folks. I mean, Phil Kinch, God bless him.
You'll edit it down.
No. Phil Kinch has recorded the longest ever episode, which was 1 hour and 45 minutes. So, Phil, I think it's going to be a long time before your record gets broken. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Danke. But I think one of the good things is that by knowing people like yourself, we've got to know each other really, really well. We've become really, really good friends. And I'm of the same opinion that be kind, make sure that you do the right things by your friends, no matter what their decisions are in life. It's about people accepting people for who they are and who they want to be. That's all I'm going to say on that one. And thank you, as I said, thank you so much for giving me your side of that kind of conversation, because it's one that I feel that a lot of people, you said about not banging the drum about it and annoying people, but I think sometimes if we don't have these conversations, then I think a lot of people might sort of close their eyes to it,
They might, but I guess it's hard to. It's easy for me to say I don't want to bang the drum when people have come before me, banged the drum, and made changes that I directly benefit from.
Hmm.
It's easy for me as a, you know, I don't know, an analogy. It's easy to go through a tunnel, but it's harder to actually say I want this tunnel and bore it out and
Yeah,
make it. It's easy to come along later and just benefit from somebody else's hard work.
yeah,
But what I have noticed is motorsport will always be a bloke's endeavor. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing at all, because there are hobbies that are predominantly women and there are hobbies that are predominantly men. But I have had men approach me going, I really appreciate that you're easy to, I can ask questions about it. Somebody said, oh, so you're a transsexual. I said, well, transgender. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, no, it doesn't, I'm not bothered. I'm not going to get offended. How dare you use that word? It's like, yeah,
mm,
unless you're around people who are transgender, like, then you're not going to know the term.
yeah,
It comes down to if there's malice behind it. And
yeah,
yeah, that's what it comes down to.
yeah. Well, I need to ask you a couple more questions. Now, we've talked about commentary.
We have.
What is in the future pipeline for Cammie Sturch as a commentator? What are you looking forward to possibly doing, or what are some of the goals that you'd like to do as a commentator? Now that you've had a taste of it, you're enjoying it, you like commentating with other people on racing. What are you hoping to do probably in the next, let's say, couple of years or so? What
Oh,
would you like to do?
it's tough because I'm obviously pushing the graphic work, but then also I should push the commentary work. And it's been a joy and a pleasure being able to commentate with yourself and Chris McCarthy, Lewis McLeod, and Chaz Draycott.
Hmm.
And you all do it professionally, and you get paid to swan around Europe to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I come up with swan around then.
Swan around. I think
Swanning around Europe.
swatting
But
around Europe or going here, there, and everywhere. Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's why I do the vlogs, because there are times when not everything goes to plan, and I've had it twice happen this year. When I went to Latvia, we had massive problems with the live stream. We then had the stream power, which was provided by a diesel generator on the Saturday, got taken out on
oh,
the last race. Then I went to the Sim Racing Expo. I'd recorded all this cool footage. It was going to be a brilliant vlog. Files went corrupted on the backup. Then the files on the computer also got corrupted, and I lost everything. So yeah, trying to document everything is sometimes easier said than done.
I
I've still got
probably
my
won't try and do that.
no.
But I would like to commentate at a real venue. I did mean to reach out to Buckmore Park, see if I could commentate there on some of their smaller series, maybe get my foot in the door there, doing it there, or because it's a bit of a cutthroat industry. I imagine it's an industry that a lot of people want to do, but there's a very finite amount of places to do it, and I imagine it's quite cutthroat when it comes to rates. And I don't know what commentators charge, and you all probably don't know what each other charges. But
It's yeah.
you,
I think coming on, you've actually brought up a very very good point, which I'll actually now address. Is that not everyone's gonna get the opportunity to commentate in F1. I know that for a fact that as much as I would love to do F1, yes, if FOM came calling, I'd drop everything and do it. 100%. But I think one of the common courtesies that some of us commentators have is that you do not ask what anyone else is charging. It's
no,
sort
and
of
it's like
it's like an
artists as
unwritten,
well.
yeah.
I don't know what other artists charge. I just charge an amount that I feel my time is worth and that I can live on. But I did get to meet David Croft at Spa Francorchamps, and I'm working with Autosport International on their 2024 show, and David Croft is opening the show. So
Nice.
maybe I will get to meet him for a second time in more relaxed circumstances than at a Formula One Sunday. And maybe I'll try and talk to him about getting my foot in the door, or even, maybe at the British Grand Prix or something, being able to have an in. I don't know. I'd very much be not begging, but please, Mr. Crofty, can I? I'm an aspiring commentator, and
Hmm.
you don't ask, don't get.
Well,
Like,
exactly. One of the things, and I use this as actually a sort of a motivational tool for me. And I remember interviewing Crofty at Autosport. I think it might have been yes, it was 2013. And I said, "What would you say to an aspiring commentator on how to go about getting work?" The response was, "Don't give them a reason to tell you no." And that was from Crofty. And how do you think he got from Hertfordshire Radio in Stevenage and Hoddesdon area to get to be the voice of Sky Sports F1? It took determination. It took drive. And the thing is, I am now in my seventh. I'm coming towards the end of my 7th year in commentary, and you people you people out there might think, oh well, yeah, you must be guaranteed for X amount of years with the championship. No, you're not. You can't always take the fact that just because you've done a particular championship, let's say for instance the Rotax Euro Trophy. On September the 10th this year, it was my last day with the current promoters. It was my last order of business that I signed off at the home of British karting, Paul Fletcher International, as my final duty as the Rotax Euro Trophy commentator after 6 years. And I've already had people, I've had about probably the best part of over a half a century of people saying to me, "Are you doing the Euro Trophy next year?" My answer is, I don't know. But one thing that I have come to embrace is when one door closes, another one opens. And I've already had people, I've even had conversations today with 2 different karting championships that want me as their commentator for next year. So I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm always looking that, okay, if that work ends, where do I go next? What's the next move? What's the next direction I want to go into?
oh, yeah, like I've got this work with Autosport. By no means I'll be doing their 2025 show stuff. They might decide they want to go with a different artist, so each year there's a different style. I don't know. They might come back to me. They might have more use. So I can't. That's the trouble of being self-employed or freelance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the risk you. It's fun in that there's always something new, but you do lose that sort of reliable, stable income, and there can be ups and there can be downs.
Yeah, very much the case. Well, Cammie, I've got one final question for you. And it's
Mm.
the one I always end Commentator's Corner on. Now,
Oh
there
yeah.
is a little bit of a twist because my guest answers first, then I provide my answer as well. So, Cammie, if you had absolutely no limit to a budget, no glass ceiling to speak of, and you had a choice of a race or road car to drive at a particular circuit of your choosing, what would you go for and why? You can have more than one on each.
I mean, it'll be a Formula One car from the early '90s, so either Ayrton Senna's MP47 or Mansell's FW14, and I would do it at Old Silverstone. Unfortunately, that's kind of an impossibility now with with Bridge Corner down and
Yep,
round
yep,
them
yep.
round to Luffield. That's a bit of an impossibility, but that is what I would like. I mean, the only racetrack I've driven on is Brands Hatch, and I wouldn't mind doing it there either. Yeah, it's nearer to home actually. Yeah, I'll take. Oh, which one though? The
You can
FW14
have
was
both. You
Mansell,
can have
but
both.
the MP47 did sound better. The V12 Honda did sound better. I'll take the MP47 around Brands Hatch and
Okay.
deafen myself in the process.
That's a very, very good choice. Well, if you're going to say the McLaren Honda, I'm going to go with the FW14 at Brands Hatch. Then, there we go. Happy
There we
days.
go. Yeah, they're pretty equal machinery. That yeah, I know Mansell dominated, but they're pretty equal machinery. And Go for the Gap is of course inspired by Ayrton Senna's infamous quote that if you don't go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. And our brand colours are modelled after the Marlboro McLaren, which is weird seeing as I grew up, adoring Mansell. But hey ho.
Well, Cammie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Commentator's Corner for episode 28. Don't forget, folks, links for Cammie and Go for the Gap are in the description down below. So please don't forget to give Cammie and also Go for the Gap the relevant likes, follows, shares, whatever on social media. Cammie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for jumping on board with the show. It's been a real pleasure to have you. Folks, that's it for episode 28. More guests coming up soon here on Commentator's Corner. Don't forget, you can also not just watch on YouTube, but you can, if you have got a smart device of some point and you do connect it via Bluetooth to your car, you can listen to it on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and also now Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport station. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. We'll see you again soon here on the show. So from myself and Cammie, it's goodbye.